Today I want to show a sort of a meme build in that it's strictly focused on the water element and also talk a little bit about why water in general is one of the most beginner-friendly elements, let's say, in the game. So we've got Hunger, Frostbite because I don't like the scope on Hailstorm. I've got Ice Fear. It's very useful even though I don't like peering through the sort of distorted vision field. Braid of Seductress, Henbane, of course, and then Shadow Mist, which I think ultimately is a superior choice for a water element ring to the Ring of Thorns. As usual, I've cut together some highlights from the run with this build, and I'd like to focus specifically on a prophecy that I forgot to put footage in of at the beginning of the video, but it's basically the prophecy of water that allows you to re-roll the arcana with one single feather. Now, this used to be a feature of all arcana on release, but it has since then been restricted to only those that are tied to a specific type of prophecy that allows you to re-roll the arcana. So, I have that particular prophecy of water equipped into my first row, and I think it's very useful in this case because among the water arcana you have options to make both mob encounters and boss encounters trivial, essentially. Maybe not trivial in the case of mobs, but very easy. And then, yes, trivial in the case of bosses. I'm talking about Shattered Soul, of course, for bosses, which makes it so that every time a boss, well, a single target, any target really, when they thaw, they take 20% of their max HP as damage. As for mobs, Snowball right here is a very good option because it allows the frost effect to be kind of passed down from one target to another. So once one of the targets has thawed or been killed, I think, there's this little hovering snowflake type of ball that transfers itself over to another enemy who then also freezes. Another alternative or addition to that arcana for mobs would be Freezing Gust, which makes it so that on thawing, enemies kind of send out a frost shockwave, which also then freezes enemies around it. So there's sort of pros and cons to each of those for mobs. If, the snowball kind of lingers a little bit, so we can eventually catch other targets that wander in the vicinity, whereas but it's still just one target. Whereas Freezing Gust happens in an AoE, and you can catch multiple targets with it, but it's only during that one, half a second or whatever when the blast happens. And we don't yet have Shattered Soul here, so if you do go with this build and you have that prophecy in your first row, your priority will be to get feathers so that you can re-roll until you get what you need. You could also get very lucky. In my second and third rows, I think I have arcana related to spells. Basically, I equipped as many spell related arcana as I could. And then in the final row, I think I have the Prophecy of Destruction, which I believe is the final prophecy you pick up at the altar of the Prophet of the Whispering God. And that one, I forget exactly what the hell that one does, but I remember it's pretty powerful boost to damage. But it has some sort of negative impact on subsequent rows, so if you put it in the last one, you should be good with that. And, I haven't been exactly commenting on the footage here, but you see that I'm dealing with some pretty chunky, relatively high threat groups, and yet the pace of the battle is not at all erratic. I'm not, performing any crazy moves, any crazy dodges, and that's kind of really what having a frost heavy build allows you to do. It allows you to really kind of take your time in the midst of a fight. Pagophobia here is also good, but I roll once more and I secured Shatter Soul on the row there, but now I have to gather 3 more feathers in order to actually activate that. So, as I said earlier, I think Ice Sphere is a very powerful heavy spell. It does get a little bit tricky because any kind of leap attack, whether it's from swordsmen or even the assassins, will downwards thrust with the dagger leap attack will also carry them through the barrier, and then they'll freeze afterwards. So it can sometimes give you a false sense of security, but you kind of have to, you know, after a while, learn to judge what encounters it's best for. It's fantastic against ranged enemies, musketeers especially, and with grenadiers, you have to watch out for certain types of projectiles that get stuck in the wall, but then explode on a delay. Those can still get you. Personally, I don't use it that much because I find it kind of limits my visibility a little in certain instances where you already have, let's say, various particle effects like smoke or that misty haze from the ice totem. And then on top of that, you have your own ice dome. It can make it rather difficult to you know, make out the outlines of enemies and where you know, get headshots, you know. So it's a powerful heavy spell. It's not one that I enjoy using that much, but you know, I was trying to be thematically consistent, so I equipped it here. Also want to talk a little bit about how awesome Frostbite is, just in terms of the enjoyment of its core mechanics. I think it's really great. Being able to chain those perfect reloads when you're under pressure kind of makes me feel like a badass, and like I'm actually earning, you know, my victories. And here you see what I was trying to say earlier, how sometimes assassins can leap through the ice sphere. And even so, this, I believe, was the highest threat group on the map. And I took relatively minimal damage, I think, from a blunderbusser or handgunner as I was trying to reposition. I caught some of that auto fire. But really, it only did a small portion of my health bar as damage. And here we pick up, let's see, heavy spell recharge, I believe I went with. Yep. Something that I recently discovered about the Assassin's flashbang grenades is that they do actually hurt if when they detonate. It's not strictly a flashbang grenade. It also does a small amount of damage if you're right next to it or on top of it when it pops. So you want to watch out for that as well. And here we have a little group of assassins who have been trying to study a little more closely these days to find out exactly what all of their attacks are and how to dodge them in the best pattern. And I find that as long as you have stamina to move at regular speed, you can very consistently dodge their, you know, 3-dagger or 3-bolt attack by just strafing to the right. Not even dashing, but simply committing to moving right, to circle strafing right. You are able to basically avoid all 3 projectiles. They can get you if you're a little bit too close, like they did in that one instance. I was a little late on the movement. It's also possible, I haven't quite figured it out yet, how to do it consistently, but it's very possible to move in such a pattern that you end up dodging in between the projectiles. You kind of, there seems to be a wider gap between the leftmost projectile and the other two, and you can kind of weave in between those. Here I've decided that I was gonna play a little bit of a sniping game and try to see how many active reloads or perfect reloads I could get in a row. And I end up getting a decent amount, but my aim isn't the best, and I don't think I make it any better by popping the ice sphere. So it's a bit of a slower swordsman fight than I am usually used to. This build isn't necessarily the fastest or most aggressive. It doesn't put out the most damage, but it is definitely, I would say, a great build if you want to take it slower, if you don't want to feel pressured to move as much, to dodge as much. It really just slows everything down, obviously, because you just freeze all your target. And I think here at one point I had three of those ice beams out at once, which was pretty cool. One other benefit of Ice Sphere that I think I took pretty good advantage of during the fight was the double range, especially with hunger, right? I was able to make my shots count far more with the hunger while inside the Ice Sphere. And here I got shot in the back by two musketeers from afar, and this is the type of situation when you realize you're under fire, let's say from multiple directions. You don't have time to react, to take cover, or to dodge properly because you're distracted with other targets. That's the sort of situation when you want to pop down the Ice Sphere, in my opinion. Again, it's also in line with the build in that it encourages this slower, more methodical, less movement-based playstyle. And in that sense, it's also one of the reasons why it's, again, not one of my favorite things to use, just from a purely mechanics enjoyment perspective. And I finally got my feathers. And then there's a little ammo mob trying to say hello. I get an active reload, and I try to get a little flashy. And I land the headshot. And there it is. At this point, if you've got Shattered Soul, and you get Freezing Gust there as well, but I don't think I actually end up having enough feathers to unlock that one as well. But at this point, you've got Freezing Gust, you've got Shattered Soul unlocked, and you've got either Freezing Gust, or Snowball, preferably both. If you got those unlocked, you should really not have much trouble winning the run, no matter where you are, in my opinion. And again, you see me taking advantage of that range boost with hunger. And as I said before, this is a meme build in part, so it's far from optimal. There's way too much frost going on here, and I could definitely benefit from having some other elements in the mix to speed up my mob clear and boost my overall damage. But here we are at Dimacher, and I forgot I also had a bunch of boons active, so I end up bringing out this Fallen Prayer. I've got the perfect shot with Frostbite, which already took down a huge chunk of his health bar. I think he already defrosted 2 or 3 times by this point. And he's almost dead. I freeze him. No, I don't. I think I do it now. And at this point, he is dead. And that's how that works. It's one of the many easy builds you can use in Witchfire.